President Chen, distinguished guests, dear friends and colleagues, good afternoon. It's a great honor to speak here, and my topic today is Humanities in the Age of AI. I will cover 4 points in 15 minutes, hopefully. And I will begin with a comment on Pamela McCorduck's memoir, This Could Be Important. My Life and Times with the Artificial Intelligentsia. By the way, the book has a chapter dedicated to Professor Raj Reddy. I think it's a very touching narrative. Now, let me say a few words about the author. McCorduck had a very strong background in humanities. She got a BA in English literature from UC Berkeley and a BMA in creative writing from Columbia University. She published novels and served as the vice president of CAN America. What's special about McCorduck is that she was introduced to AI at its very early stage. She married Joseph Traub. For those who work in this field, I think you are not unfamiliar with his name, who was the chairperson of the Department of Computer Science at Carnegie Mellon University, and who became the chairperson of the Computer Science Department later at Columbia University. Over the years, she developed friendship with heroes in AI such as John McCarthy, Herbert Simon, Alan Newell, and Marvin Minsky, are the big four in AI, and also Edward Feigenbaum and Raj Reddy. She was fascinated with AI and wrote extensively on the topic. Like Machines Who Think, the fifth generation, the universal machine, the rise of the expert company, Aaron's Code, more on this later, and her memoir, This Could Be Important. She is recognized as one of the influential historians of artificial intelligence. One of the main concerns of McCorduck's memoir is the so-called two-culture problem. In May 1959, C.P. Snow gave his Reed lecture entitled The Two Cultures and the Scientific Revolution at Cambridge University. In this famous lecture, Snow addressed a prominent phenomenon in modern Western society, namely the split between scientific and cultural and literary culture. Snow was a well-trained scientist as well as a very successful writer. He knew very well both scientists and literary intellectuals. He found that there was a lack of communication and a mutual understanding between the two camps. Few literary intellectuals knew the second law of thermodynamics, and a few scientists had read Shakespeare's works. The gap even increased to the point of mutual hostility. Snow's speech touched the nerve of the modern mind and reflected a deep anxiety in modern society. The concept of two cultures soon became popular across the world and became an important topic of cultural discussions. In the fall semester of 1960, Snow and his wife were visitors to the English department of UC Berkeley. Snow gave a talk on two cultures there, which is sort of a roadshow of his Reed lecture a year before in Cambridge. McCorduck was a student. She attended the lecture and felt electrified. In retrospect, she acknowledged that the theme of two cultures, quote, would reverberate so deeply through my life, end quote. She did not want to be sealed in one of the cultures, that is, the humanities in which she was trained. A persisting motive of her entire career was to overcome the chasm between the cultures. What she wanted to accomplish as her lifelong goal was the reconciliation of the arts and humanities on the one hand, and computer science and artificial intelligence on the other. She made efforts to persuade her colleagues in the humanities that this could be important, and by this, she meant AI. The three domains that McCorduck highlights in her memoir are art, storytelling, and digital humanities, which I call the paradigm cases, where we can find a fruitful collaboration between AI and arts and humanities. In her memoir, McCorduck recounts vividly her collaboration with Harold Cohen, a British artist, in the book project which turned out to be Aaron's Code. Cohen was no doubt one of the first who deployed AI for artistic creation. He developed an AI program which is called Aaron, hence the title of McCorduck's book, Aaron's Code. Storytelling is viewed as the marker of human intelligence. Here's a quotation from Professor Patrick Winston from MIT. Okay? The mechanisms that enable humans to tell, understand, and recombine stories separate our intelligence from that of other primates. Therefore, to model storytelling in AI represents a significant step in the field. Winston and his colleagues pursued this goal in this direction and worked out a story understanding AI program called Genesis. McCorduck is extremely enthusiastic with digital humanities, an emerging field that is transforming and reshaping the humanities. According to McCorduck, quantitative analysis is growing more and more important in humanities. Text is blended with, even transformed into the graphical, the musical, and the numerical. But the purpose are sweetly familiar: to know and understand as deeply as possible what humans feel, know, and do, end quote. I think this is a brilliant characterization of digital humanities. She zealously narrates various projects in digital humanities in US and Europe. Now, in this connection, I want to mention that the study of the dissemination, acceptance, and recognition of Laozi outside of China, advocated by President Chen and carried out by my colleagues here at ECNU, is a project in digital humanities. Now, I don't mean the list is exhaustive. The point is like this. The paradigm cases that McCorduck singles out and examines in detail show that instead of the hopeless chasm of the two cultures, we should rather opt for a fruitful collaboration between these two fields, the sciences and the humanities. Inspired by her lifelong efforts, I want to make 2 points with regard to the humanities and in the age of AI. And they correspond to part 3 and part 4 of my presentation. First, distinction rather than dichotomy of science and humanities. Now, it is all too easy to claim that science and the humanities are complementary, okay? But do we have a conceptual grounding for this claim, okay? I think as a philosopher, I think we need to explore in this direction. And what I come up with is the conclusion that we need to draw a differentiation between distinction and dichotomy. The problem of two cultures could be well addressed by making a conceptual differentiation between distinction and dichotomy. Namely, we should overcome the dichotomy between science and the humanities, but at the meantime, embrace a reasonable distinction between them. The differentiation between dichotomy and distinction could be interpreted as follows. Dichotomy indicates that A and B are separated and isolated, just like two doors set apart by a door. Whereas distinction indicates that A and B are different but not separate, just like two strands in the cord. Strand 1 and strand 2 are mutually supportive, but could and should be distinguished. And the further question is how to distinguish science and the humanities. Of course, there are different ways of making clear the distinction, okay? The differentiation between, the distinction between the natural sciences and the humanities, as illustrated by New Kantianism, hermeneutics, so on and so forth. Here is my proposal. The uniqueness of humanity, in my view, lies in the fact that they open up a realm of values. Truth, justice, freedom, goodness, beauty, etc. are the basic values of mankind. Human dignity is rooted in these values. In arts, literature, history, and philosophy, the humanities, okay, we thematize, clarify, and articulate the basic human values, and thereby preserve, protect, and defend human dignity. That's why humanistic cognition is often value-laden and accordingly evaluative and normative. Whereas in science, we need to distinguish our work in terms of first order and second order. On the first order level, the natural sciences are value-free. They are mainly concerned about the causality or mechanism of things and events under investigation. In this sense, scientific cognition suspends value and is essentially descriptive and explanatory. On the second order level, our natural scientific inquiries are dominated and regulated by the pursuit of truth. That is to say, in science, the basic human value of truth functions on the second order level rather than on the first order level. In a word, in overcoming the chasm between the two cultures described by Snow, I propose a more sophisticated understanding of the relation between science and the humanities. That is, reject dichotomy, but keep distinction. Second, intelligence, scientific versus philosophical. No doubt, intelligence is the keyword of our times. And in my view, unpacking the mystery of intelligence requires interdisciplinary efforts. In an interview with Andrew Ng in early 2023, Li Feifei, a professor of computer science from Stanford University, claimed, quote, "My audacious question is still intelligence. I think since Alan Turing, humanity has not fully understood what the fundamental computing principles are behind intelligence. I still dream of a set of simple equations or simple principles that can define the process of intelligence, whether it's animal intelligence or machine intelligence," end quote. Compared with the history of physics, Li thinks that we are still in the pre-Newtonian period as far as our understanding of intelligence is concerned in computer science. In addition to the scientific understanding of intelligence, we should also explore the secrets of intelligence in humanistic lines. In this connection, I would like to briefly discuss Gilbert Ryall's work so as to show that philosophers could make a contribution to revealing the nature of intelligence. Gilbert Ryle is a British philosopher. In his attempt to clarify knowing how, he works out a philosophical account of intelligence. 3 points merit attention in this context. First, intelligence is a style. By using intelligence concepts such as wise or unwise, sensible or silly, etc., we are describing the modus operandi, the style, the manner, or the way, as the theme of our conference shows, of certain performance. So, ontologically, the locus of intelligence is the style of the agent's performance. Second, creativity is paradigmatic of intelligence. The world is in constant change. To properly deal with the world, we have to be adaptive and innovative accordingly. Innovativeness or creativity exemplifies intelligence. Third, intelligence is normative. Ryle points out that in our various intelligent actions, we try to get things right. I like this phrase very much. Get things right is a beautiful expression that brings out the normativity of intelligence. I'm not saying that Gilbert Ryle's theory of intelligence is perfect, and nothing is perfect, but I think it could be a very good starting point. So now, we have two accounts of intelligence, one scientific, envisioned by Li Feifei, the other philosophical, provided by Gilbert Ryle. To employ a distinction made by Professor Thomas Nagel, the distinction between subjective and objective view, or the distinction between internal view or external view. I would say that the scientific account is a characterization of intelligence in objective or external view, whereas the philosophical account is one in subjective or internal view. In my paper last year on Thing in Itself, I developed a switching theory of reality. And I believe that it also applies to the issue of intelligence. The history of mankind has proven that it is fruitful to switch back and forth between the subjective view and objective view, and between the internal view and the external view. In the case of intelligence, I argue that in developing a scientific account of intelligence, it is important to keep an eye on the philosophical account. And in developing a philosophical account of intelligence, it is important to keep an eye on the scientific account. A mutual learning process between scientists and philosophers is to be expected. And in Stanford High, which is co-directed by Li Feifei and the philosopher John Etchemendy, interdisciplinarity is one of the core values and has been efficiently implemented. Looking back at the history of philosophy, it is clear that by focusing on reality, we have metaphysics. By focusing on human knowledge, we developed epistemology. By focusing on goodness and justice, we developed ethics. By focusing on intentionality, we developed phenomenology. And by focusing on understanding, we developed hermeneutics, and so on and so forth, right? Now, focusing on intelligence and in close collaboration with computer science and AI, what kind of philosophy will dawn on us? Obviously, we are at the critical moment of the history of philosophy. On the horizon, a new philosophy centering on intelligence is taking shape. And this is really, really exciting. Thank you very much.